One of the most popular colors I ever installed as a granite installer. You're looking at it right here. The builders love this, and so do the homeowners. I'm gonna show you right now how to match it and cover it with Stone Coat Epoxy. I'm convinced these sponge rollers are gonna make me a professional sponge painter on my second sponge painting project ever. Learn right now how to match granite with Stone Coat Epoxy. Stay tuned and enjoy the video. Here's the battle plan on matching that brown piece of granite. I turned my board this lighter shade of brown. I'm gonna sponge paint with my roller, my next 2 shades of brown, come back with a little black, let that all dry, and then layer my brown colors right back over. As you add layers, your countertop comes to life. Only a little bit of this paint is needed for each layer of sponge painting. I'm talking, that's it. Not much at all. So a little quart of this is gonna go a long way. You can do multiple jobs with this method. All right, I got a little bit of paint in my tray. I'm gonna add it up here to my roller. Only a little bit is needed. It's pretty cool. Light pressure is all that needed. And in random pattern, we're gonna add some accent browns to this project. And I'm gonna go in all different directions too. Oh, I pushed too hard there. But don't worry about that. As we add layers, it all starts disappearing, becoming really pretty and natural. Right on. Perfect. We're gonna let this first layer dry and come back with my 3rd shade of brown. It'll be about 5 minutes. See you in a second. All right, our first layer is nice and dry. I'm gonna go for round number 2 here. There's tons of different ways to sponge paint. I really like this roller method because it works perfectly with our countertops. It's like a red rock brown right there. I like that color. That looks really pretty. Like this. This is looking good already. All right, that second color is dry. I'm coming back now with my lightest color. Had to clean up my paint pan. I got 3 colors and only 2 paint pans. Not good. These rollers clean out super quick and easy, just with warm water. So remember my big blobs? I'm gonna try to eliminate those a little bit more. And as we layer each color, it will. Ooh, yes. Bye-bye, boo-boo. Ooh, I pushed too hard. I added way too much color right there. I got carried away. But don't panic when you do that, because as we bring on more colors, that eliminates. You don't never know you made a boo-boo. That's the best part about this sort of epoxy method. People are nervous about working with epoxy. You know, I don't have any epoxy mixed right now. I'm not mixing epoxy until my countertop looks exactly how I want it to look. Just gonna keep layering till I like it, then we're mixing up some clear Stone Coat Epoxy. All right, my second layer is nice and dry. I'm gonna continue the process, layering my shades of brown on top of each other until I'm pleased with how the countertop looks. When I'm happy with how it looks after all my layers of brown, I'm ready to mix up some epoxy. That was a lot of fun and really not any hard work. I'm gonna let this dry for a few hours, let that ammonia dissipate out of this latex paint. We'll be back to mix up some clear Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy. That's a really fast step. We're just mixing, troweling, chopping, torching, letting it cure. Pretty dang close if I say so myself. Good job, Mitch. Way to sponge roll. The paint's on like a pro. This is only the second time I've ever sponge painted anything. To finish this off, I'm just simply gonna mix up some clear Stone Coat Epoxy. We're gonna mix for 2 minutes in this little mixing bucket. I'm mixing up 3 ounces per square foot of project, and this is a 1-to-1 ratio epoxy by volume, not weight. This type of epoxy project is so perfect for those of you who are brand new to epoxy, or those a little bit nervous to do an exotic pour or make a marble. Those are still really easy, don't get me wrong. But this way, you know what your countertop looks like well before you even mix up epoxy. You know, if I'm on site, I'm working for a customer, they could sign off on this and be like, perfect, it looks great, or I want a little more black, I want a little more of this shade. But get your customer happy before you mix up epoxy. Have them sign off on it. You're off to the races. You're pouring epoxy. Project's done. Customer's happy. You're getting paid. All right, we're ready for our clear coat. So before using your chop brush, you could pick these up at stonecoatcountertops.com. We're gonna de-shed any loose bristles. To do that, just pull on the brush. All right, we're gonna take our mixed clear epoxy and pour it right in the center of our project. Have you seen these new notch trowels available at our website as well? They're super user friendly, and they dub here as a mixing stick. Scrape all that epoxy right out of your bucket. But now, okay, perfect, look at this. See that? See the lighter bits of epoxy? Does that show up? Yep. That right there is a little bit of undermixed epoxy. So to mix that in, just trowel that amongst itself. Gone. Now we've just incorporated any of that undermixed epoxy clinging into all this mixed epoxy. No soft spots, will be good to go. Now using your 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch notch trowel, we're just gonna slowly spread our material out of around the surface of the project. And remember, all our color coats are on the surface of this board. So do your troweling with light pressure. I'm just letting it glide. I'm not nervous, but I'm not pushing really hard. No need to do that. The whole reason we're using this trowel is just spread an even coating over our countertop. And it's white right now because of all that air we incorporated into that small batch of epoxy. Now that the field is covered, we're gonna take a mass and let a little bit go over our edges. Okay, now with light pressure, we're just gonna even this rest of this epoxy out over the project, and we're ready to chop the top. Wipe off my little notch trowel here, and this thing will be ready to use again on my next project. We've already de-shed or removed any loose bristles. Now we're gonna take this brush and get it wet with what's left in our mixing bucket. And now we're gonna chop the top. What that means is we're gonna use the heel of this brush and cover the entire surface of the project. After spreading the material evenly with the notch trowel, you'll see iridescent trowel lines. We want to eliminate those with this chop brush. We're also using this brush as a final mixture. We mix in the bucket, we mix with the trowel, and now we're mixing a third time here on the surface with this chop brush. All right, the surface has been chopped. I'm gonna take my wet brush and rub my edges now to make any dry areas wet. Then my epoxy flows perfectly right over my edges. All right, time to remove the air from this epoxy. Remember, we incorporated tons of air because we only mixed a little bit of epoxy. We're gonna use a heat source, in this case a propane torch, to remove this air quickly. It'll take 3 or 4 passes we're gonna let the epoxy cool down in between torchings so we don't overheat the resin. I'm gonna let this resin cool down for a minute or so, give it another torch. Pretty close, maybe a little more black, but I don't like the black as much. That's how you apply a crystal clear coat of epoxy over your pre-sponge painted board. This countertop job is complete. Guys, I'm gonna let this epoxy cure. It's gonna be dry between 18 and 24 hours from right now. For the best possible cure, if I'm on site, I'm gonna turn off the heater and the air conditioner. If you have an AC or heat vent blowing down on this epoxy, it can ripple as it cures. So kill the central heating and air. If it's winter, put a space heater down below blowing in the kitchen, but not up on the countertops. Those AC vents can also poof in some lint. So if it's summer or if it's winter and you're freezing cold or super hot, tape off the vent in the kitchen so it doesn't poof lint over your curing epoxy or make it ripple as it cures. That's a pro tip in a perfect cure on site. You also want to keep your temperature above 65 degrees for the first few days of curing. It's very important to keep that room temperature above 65 for the first few days of curing. If this project were on site, tomorrow I'd be back to apply the ultimate top coat in the natural or high gloss finish. Both versions are the final step in our epoxy countertop system to bring this epoxy countertop to extreme durability. When this countertop cures, it's gonna be 100% food safe and ready for the kitchen use and abuse. It only requires one clear coat of epoxy. Why? Because it's just clear. There's no spray paint additives, there's no metallic powders that then make the Stone Coat Epoxy no longer food safe. Clear Stone Coat Epoxy is FDA approved for the commercial kitchen use for incidental food contact. Booyah! This piece turned out fantastic. It was only the second time I've ever sponge painted anything. And if it turned out this good, guys, you can do it at home as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you gained a little bit of confidence to try this out over your worn out existing surfaces and bring that kitchen back to this century. Remember, from Stone Coat Countertops, you got this, and we'll see you on the next video.
Stone Coat Countertops, you got this.